Welcome to the Ohio Health Ice House, where Blue Jackets development camp continues today. It is day 3 of this 4-day camp. Prospects will soon be hitting this freshly resurfaced ice right here at the Ice House and going through their skating drills for a third day after they've already been busy this morning going through activities. We'll talk about all of that coming up in just a little bit. Bob McElligott alongside of Jody Shelley, and joining us for the free agency day edition of CBJ in 30 is our very own Jeff Rimmer as well. Hello, Jeff.
Hey, great to be with you, and happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day to you. July 1st is Canada Day. How old is Canada, Jeff?
Well, you're asking the wrong guy.
What,
Jody?
At least 180 years old.
148 years old today.
Yeah.
148 years old. Why does the American guy know how old your country is today?
Hey, you obviously went to American or Canadian history
You looked
class.
it up the most recently.
It was all over television today for crying out. Yeah, that is actually kind of right. So, again, today is a big day for free agency and a lot of players moving in the NHL. We're going to talk about a lot of that coming up, but let's start with yesterday afternoon. We did the show yesterday morning. Jody, you and I talked about, you said it yesterday, today would be a good day for some big trades. And at that time, all was quiet, but it turned out to be the calm before the storm as the Columbus Blue Jackets made a huge deal yesterday in sending Artem Anisimov, Marco Dano, Corey Tropp, Jeremy Morin, and a 4th-round pick in 2016 to the Chicago Blackhawks. And the centerpiece of the deal coming back the other way is Brandon Saad. This is a guy that just won his 2nd Stanley Cup and 22 years old, power forward. How much better does this make the Blue Jackets?
Well, it's really unbelievable, and the buzz is not only around this organization but around the city. The fans of this city, anyone that's been tied in at all with the Columbus Blue Jackets is very excited. Brandon Saad has probably been the most used name, the most prolific player, young player to be talked about in the National Hockey League as far as when the playoffs started. He's a restricted free agent. That's taken care of, or it's going to be taken care of here, hopefully, with the Columbus Blue Jackets. He's now a part of this organization. Moved some big pieces to get him. I know a couple other pieces came this way, but those guys are unproven. The proven guy is Brandon Saad. He's here. He's a winner. And we did have to move some assets, some regular NHL players, but I think that is an awesome move. And what a statement the day before free agency. If they're trying to lure any kind of player in here, any guy that's got some cachet or a guy that's a big name, put Columbus on the radar, because you know what? They are doing something special there.
Jeff, when we were in Florida over the weekend for the draft, and there was a lot of talk about the Blue Jackets trying to move up from number 8 to number 3 with the Arizona Coyotes, and part of a package that was being bantered around was Artem Anisimov. I wasn't a big fan of that deal. I love Artem Anisimov. I really wish that he was here, and when they were talking about moving him for number 3, if you get a Noah Hannafin, that's great, but he's an unproven guy. I changed my entire opinion with him being in this deal because Brandon Saad is a proven guy, so this is much easier for me to stomach. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. I can tell you right now that in Chicago they feel that Saad is a loss, and that goes right to Coach Quenneville, who called him moving forward and presently one of the premier power forwards of the National Hockey League, and looking ahead at 22, already 2 Stanley Cups, a couple of game-winning goals in the Stanley Cup playoffs. This guy is the real deal, and he'll certainly be a fixture on the left wing. I was texting last night with Ryan Johansson, and Ryan was ecstatic. I said, well, you're going to have to step up your game. He said, I'm already pumped. I'm ready to go. I said, can you get 120 points next year playing with this guy? He said, easy.
Yeah, I talked to him this morning just before I got here, as a matter of fact, too, and I said, are you excited that Jarmo came right out and said he expects him to play with you? And he said, yeah, I'm really pumped up about that. But he was also very realistic in saying, but you know how things work. If it's not meshing, then they very quickly change it. Wouldn't you agree with that?
Well, I haven't talked to Ryan Johansson, guys, but I have talked to a couple guys on the
Well,
Blue
you can
Jackets.
name you can drop a name.
I'm not going to drop names. I'm going to keep them quiet. But they're also excited about having Brandon Saad a part of this organization. It's one of those things that you sit back, you watch, you wonder what your organization is going to do, and I think this move is exciting. We're excited. I think we were all excited yesterday when we saw this happen. So, yeah, this organization, and you got a right-handed shot in the middle in Ryan Johansson, left-handed in Saad. It's just, I think it's a nice little detail that works out well if those two do get to play together.
Now, last year, and you'll remember this, Bob, we were in Philadelphia, and actually even happened prior to going to Philadelphia for the draft. Jody Shelley was the welcoming committee for a certain guy on the Philadelphia Flyers that came this way. My question to you is, have you officially welcomed Brandon Saad?
Me?
Yeah.
No, that's you guys.
You're the
Well,
ambassador.
you were all over. You're the ambassador
You're the
for the
ambassador.
team.
That's right. You know what? Maybe I should. I'll go
want his
find him.
number?
I heard he was at a Tim Hortons earlier this morning, so I'll maybe try to track him down.
I'll give you his number. You can call him.
All right. Thank you, Jeff.
The other two, you mentioned the other pieces that came.
Yes.
That there were some more pieces. Defenseman Michael Paleota comes over. He just spent his first year with the Blackhawks organization after he went 4 years to the University of Vermont. And the centerman Alex Broadhurst. Yarmo has always said, or has already said, that Paleota will have a chance to compete and try to make the club. Jeff, as we talk about the Blue Jackets trying to add to their defense, and today, free agency day, they haven't done anything as far as signing a defenseman. Could this guy maybe be a sleeper that nobody's talking about right now?
Well, Jarmo Kekalainen said last night during the conference call that the defenseman will be given every opportunity to make the hockey club in training camp. He had a phenomenal year in Vermont, his senior year. He was captain of the team. He's on a number of all-star teams. I talked to a scout in another organization to kind of get a feel on him. He said, boy, he had a big year. He is a character player, and will have a chance to make your club. The other youngster played junior, of course, in the Ontario Hockey League, and he had a chance to see him, and he said pretty good hockey player as well, but obviously he'll be given every opportunity to be part of this team.
So a proven piece in Brandon Saad, a very good prospect piece, and maybe soon to be a proven piece in Paleota, and then maybe a project piece that could be a part of this in the next couple of years.
Yeah, and really, I mean, that's great. But I think Saad is the big deal. It's always
sure.
nice. I mean,
Absolutely.
we're almost talking like potential, but that is, as we know, the
But I'm just saying,
exciting part
if you
of that
come
deal.
out of this with a defenseman as well that turns out to be a pretty good player, this really looks a lot better.
Oh yeah, it's
even
been
better
the
than it
focus
looks
the last
today, right?
72. The last 5 days we've talked about the needs of this team, and that's definitely one. And here again, when you pick up a piece in Brandon Saad, and then you say, okay, a nice prospect in a defenseman in that position, why not?
Yep.
Interesting. Penguins obviously were interested in bringing the boy from their town back home. They tried. Jim Rutherford was trying. And I think that forced him. Whether or not he had any intention, certainly there was interest in Phil Kessel. And I think that forced them, when you look at the Jackets loading up with a kid like Saad, it forced Jim Rutherford to find yet another forward, a goal-scoring forward, in this case Kessel, if they can ever get him going. They bring him in because they've been trying desperately to find somebody that could play the wing with either Malkin and Crosby or Malkin and Crosby. And certainly Kessel will be an interesting fit if he does fit, in Pittsburgh.
No, I totally agree with that. And who would have thought that you would see the day this quickly where the Pittsburgh Penguins are trying to keep up with the Joneses, and the Joneses happen to be the Columbus Blue Jackets? Because to me, that's exactly what happened today.
Oh, absolutely.
And that in itself is remarkable, but I'm trying to figure out, and you mentioned this, how do you get all those salaries in under a salary cap? I mean,
We've talked about that for days, right?
There's 3 players, they're making $30 million, close to $30 million.
Absolutely, for sure.
That's over almost half of the salary cap, and they got some magic to work, because 3 guys is not going to win, and they got Fleury in there, and they got 2 key defensemen. Letang is making big bucks too.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
They need a new mathematician.
We'll talk about that more in just a minute. First, there's one more Blue Jackets deal that happened today, and unfortunately this is a subtraction, not an addition for the Columbus Blue Jackets. Mark Letestu, who's been a very vital part of what has gone on here the last couple of years, leaves the Blue Jackets organization. Many thought, and I'm on the list of the many, that thought maybe when Artem Anisimov left yesterday that Mark Letestu would then quickly be inked to a deal and would stay here in Columbus. That did not happen. He went to the Edmonton Oilers, a 3-year deal worth $1.8 million per year. Congratulations to him and his family. He is going back to his home area to play for the Edmonton Oilers. He's obviously going to be what he was here, Jody, to be honest with you. A guy that, he came here from Pittsburgh, a team that had won, joining a team that hadn't had a lot of success on the ice and helped young players grow and mature. He's going into the exact same situation in Edmonton with the Oilers. And
Edmonton had signed Boyd Gordon a couple of years ago to a big contract to slot in that reliable third and fourth line penalty kill position. They've got Mark Letestu for much cheaper than that. Hometown guys from Elk Point, Alberta. We know Mark loved this area, loved the organization. Really connected well with Todd Richards. Wanted to stay here, but it seems like they let it go too long. He got a sniff that the Oilers wanted him, and here he gets a nice 3-year contract. It's his first contract of this kind. He's a guy that grinded his way up through Wilkes-Barre, got his opportunity here, took advantage of it. I think he was a luxury player to have. Him and Anisimov gone today. In the last 24 hours. That's a big deal, I think, down the middle. You got to find that reliability. But all the best, as you said, to Mark and his wife.
Can I throw a rumor out there early
Sure.
here on
Yeah.
the show? And you can connect the dots
A
if you
rumor
want.
or a rumor?
Just a rumor. There's a report out there now, the Blues, who have to make some significant changes after saying that they brought Ken Hitchcock back for a year. They want to change the core of that hockey club. Reportedly, Kevin Shattenkirk is on the block. Now,
Wow.
connect the dots. John Davidson, president of the St. Louis Blues, prior to coming to Columbus. Jarmo Kekalainen, head of scouting, selected Shattenkirk. Jackets are not going to get involved here in free agency. They're not going to overpay. We talked to John Davidson Saturday at the draft, and he made it very, very clear that we are not going to overpay for free agents. And the guys that are out there, Mike Green, reportedly Paul Martin is close to signing or has signed with the San Jose Sharks. The Jackets aren't going to overpay. They just did that, or not just, but had done that previously, bringing James Wisniewski in on a long-term contract for big dollars. They're not going to do it. You look at a guy like Shattenkirk, if in fact that's the guy. We hadn't heard that previously. The guys they mentioned about moving on, T.J. Oshie, David Backus, Backlund.
Yeah, the big Swede.
The big Swede.
Berglund.
Yeah, Berglund.
Berglund.
Yeah, Berglund. So those were the type of guys that they were shopping around. Evidently, they're not finding the market they're looking for, and now talking about Shattenkirk, who's a pretty good defenseman.
That would be a pretty good fit
Wow,
if it were to come. He's a great defenseman. Actually, that would be very good. You know, you bring up the Wisniewski signing a couple of years ago, and as you were talking about that, it just made me think how great it is that this franchise is in such a different spot now. When James Wisniewski came here, they were almost forced not just to sign him, but to overpay him to get him to come here. They had to make a trade of a draft pick to get his negotiating rights the day before free agency to try to get this deal done because the cupboard was bare. There was nothing there, and they needed to make some kind of a splash. The way this team is sitting right here today, they just made a big splash yesterday, but their hand wasn't forced on it. They didn't have to do it. They could have stayed with what they had and been competitive to start the year. It's great that you're seeing this thing start to evolve the way that this management pictured that it would.
Well, it's interesting to me. I look at the Toronto Maple Leafs, and I'm amazed because every day they remind everybody that we're in a rebuild. If I got to hear that again, rebuild.
Oh, you will.
What's a rebuild? You don't know your identity. That's simply what you're telling us is you have no identity. At that time, the Blue Jackets had no identity. Let's do this. Let's try this. Let's do that. How confident are you when you see Jarmo Kekalainen walk up the stairs or walk through the hallway? He has a plan. We watched him at the draft. There was mistakes can be made at the draft. Mistakes can be made today at free agency. He's got a plan. He's cool, calm, and calculated, confident with what he's got here. You look at Toronto. They don't know what they got. They're trying to search for it. Shanahan and Babcock.
They don't have a general manager.
Right.
Shanahan and Babcock, they are the culture of that team when you think about them right now. So they're going through that transition. And then you have teams that are trying to tweak. Teams like Chicago are so good, they got to get rid of great players. And that's where a team like Columbus is tweaking in a different way. So I love where this team is at. And you mentioned it a few years ago. You were part of this. You were part of this. I was on the outside looking back thinking, what is going on? But I tell you what, we're in a good place here in Columbus, Ohio.
Your point's well taken because Jarmo Kekalainen and John Davidson have both said right from the outset here of free agency they would not be opposed to starting the season with the present cast on that blue line. And obviously, as Jarmo said last night on that conference call, we can add a piece during the season. We can add a piece prior to the trading deadline and put this team over the top. So there's no sense of urgency on the blue line. They feel they've got 7, 8 potential defensemen that they can start the season with. But if there's a tantalizing offer out there and something that intrigues them, perhaps something happens prior to the start of the season.
Do you feel like they're a little top-heavy now? You just removed 4 full-time players from the lineup with Dano, Morin, and guys in that bottom part, Letestu, Anisimov. Trop. I mean, those guys were the 5 of the 6 bottom forwards, and you're relying on Clarkson, Bork, guys that really haven't played much here. Skilly's gone too, so there's 6 at the bottom. Jared Bowl is in there somewhere. But it's kind of a different look. You're really top-heavy with those first 2. Do you need more? I mean, Wenberg needs to take a step, obviously. But is there guys that we're not thinking of that are going to fill those roles?
Well, for one, it's going to open up opportunities for players to come to camp. You've got Sonny Milano, who reportedly has put on some 20 pounds. He's going to try to challenge for a position on the hockey club.
So have we.
Yeah. Well, speak for yourself.
I looked at Bob when I said that.
I'm glad you did. They want competition. And if they feel they're a little shorthanded, actually, you talk about being top-heavy. They were top-heavy. That's why they moved those forwards out. They want to make some significant changes. People say, well, it's status quo, the hockey club. Well, if you look at the 4 lines potentially for this team, it is not status quo by any stretch of the imagination. And you point out, rightfully so, David Clarkson's going to be healthy. He's going to be a part of this hockey club. Bork, boy, did he play well in the limited time that he played here. He's a guy that can put the puck consistently into the net. I think the Jackets are a lot better today with the sod edition yesterday than they were at any time last season.
Well, and I agree. And let's look at these guys that you're talking about, too. David Clarkson makes a lot of money. He's making first, second line money, but he's not going to be a first or second line guy on this team if it stays the way it is right now. But I think he'll be a great third line guy. Will he be an overpaid third liner if you look at the rest of the league? Probably. But who cares? If you're winning games and he's doing his job, I don't care how much he's getting paid. $5 or $5 million. Doesn't matter to me. Rene Bork, another guy that he can fill that kind of a role, right? Big body guy. Like you said, he played very well when he was here last year. So there are pieces to put in there. And when it comes to young players, and I understand your point about Sonny Milano, but I think when you have the guys like that, is Sonny Milano going to flourish in a top 9 role or in a fourth line role? Is he better off to go to Lake Erie and play in the top 6 and be a power play and a penalty kill guy? I think so, but I'm not the GM.
Well, they're not going to rush him.
No, they're not going
to. They're not going to rush him.
Right,
but,
and that's
but
the
if
point.
he comes to camp,
right.
if he comes to camp and has an exceptional camp,
absolutely,
then he forces their hand.
Or Bjorkstrand. There's another guy, maybe even more so. I mean, right now today, I'd probably put him ahead of Sonny Milano. There's Oliver Bjorkstrand right there getting ready for his skating session here this afternoon. I mean, this guy, as Jarmo said yesterday, every time they talked about a trade at the draft, this guy's name was being brought up. Everybody wants him.
I think that he and Milano will have a chance to force the issue here at camp. He was the Canadian Player of the Year in the Western Hockey League last year. It's interesting, and I thought about this last night, looking back on the draft. How about all, and Jody will love this, how about all the Western Canadian kids the team selected last year? And there's something to be said about Western Canadian kids. That league's a tougher league. Of the 3 leagues, there's obviously a lot of fighting going on in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League, and you've got to be a guy that can take care of yourself in that league. Jody played in it, and he certainly knows that. But that Western Hockey League, and the Jackets significantly looked out west for some of their players. And Bjorkstrand had a phenomenal season last year, and, of course, back-to-back 50-goal seasons.
Yeah, that is a good league, and it's known for a lot of toughness. And also they went to Sweden and Finland, where those kids played some professional already at a young level. So,
right.
You know, that listen, we can hash it over and talk about players that have been subtracted. I look at this picture right now. It's got Blake Como going to the Colorado Avalanche. He was a piece we talked about last year when we were struggling with the Columbus Blue Jackets. And right above him this year, Mark Letestu's got that Edmonton Oilers picture right next to his symbol, right next to his mugshot. And it's like, you know, these guys were the big part of what was going on here. But it almost speaks to the depth of the organization when you go and pick up a guy like Saad. There are guys that fill in these roles, and we do have guys that need to take a step here too, and they know it. And they've got they were told that on the way out. Guys like Cam Atkinson, the whole team was disappointed. They've been off since the beginning of April. Here we are, beginning of July. That's been a long stretch already.
How about a couple of other guys that wore the Blue Jacket uniform that have moved on? Poor Timmy Erickson. How many times has this guy been traded? He just signed. He just signed a $600,000 contract with the Toronto Maple Leafs, and then gets dealt.
He's been with 4 teams in less than a year. Started here last year, got traded to the Blackhawks.
What a great guy, though.
In the Jeremy Morin deal. And then he got sent to the Toronto Maple Leafs, and today the Maple Leafs, as part of the Kessel deal, sent him to Pittsburgh. You can never unpack the suitcase.
Everybody wants him.
Right.
You can look at it that
Everybody
way.
wants him.
Absolutely.
Played for like a 7th of the league in a short
He
period of time.
He really liked Toronto, too.
Yeah.
He'd mentioned that when we saw him here skating. He was thrilled to be there.
John Moore, where did he go?
He went to New Jersey on a
the
three-year contract, and what a great kid. We had talked about maybe him coming back this way because that familiarity with the organization. But He got a nice little deal in New Jersey. Bartowski, a local product as far as the Ohio State University. Matt Bartowski, he did a great job in Boston. He signs with the Vancouver Canucks for a 1-year deal worth it might have been $2.7 million. Nice deal for the kid on kind of a bridge contract, I guess if you call it, from him, coming from college, playing 2 years, and now getting a nice one-way contract.
Well, let's look at some of the signings today and some of the deals, and let's start with the forwards because, as we've been talking about, Phil Kessel did get traded today from the Toronto Maple Leafs to the Pittsburgh Penguins. This is kind of a big deal. This is very reminiscent of the deal that the Blue Jackets made yesterday because along with that, Nick Spalling went to the Toronto Maple Leafs. That's how the Maple Leafs ate up a little bit of salary because Jim Rutherford overpaid Nick Spalling last year, and he got that taken off the plate today at over $2 million.
If I could just interject here for a minute, he's overpaid too many times, Jimmy Rutherford, because if you think back to when he was with Carolina and overpaid for Semin, and then Semin gets bought out, guess what? He just signed with the Pittsburgh Penguins today for another $2 million.
And that'll be interesting.
Semin.
Oh, he did?
Yeah.
Well,
so he brought him back.
That'll be interesting because, that first year he was in Carolina, he did so
well.
How
does that happen?
He did so well in Carolina, they signed him to a multi-year deal. And
$28 million for 3 years or something?
Yeah. He was.
And now he got him for $2 million.
Made out like
now he got him for $2 million after they bought him out.
So,
wait a second. Let's try this again.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm sure it'll work here. I'm sure it'll work.
Will you take $2 million?
His agent said he's motivated because he's been bought out.
Sure.
Of course, we played Carolina a couple times.
How does that
last
work?
year.
That works the other way, I think.
Yeah, exactly. They had him benched. They had him benched. They had him scratched from the lineup. And, they ended up buying him out. Ron Francis, the general manager, did just that. And just like that, he's found a home again with Jimmy Rutherford.
Maybe they
awesome.
they think Malkin will get him going there
Ooh.
in Pittsburgh. I don't know. Anyway, Nick Spalling goes to the Maple Leafs. Who else? They sent Kasperi Kapanen, who was the first-round pick last year by the Pittsburgh Penguins, a guy that Jarmo Kekalainen coveted a lot. He made a lot of calls trying to get a pick to get him before the Penguins ever got him. He went there. And Scott Harrington, who was a former second-round pick, a defenseman of the Pittsburgh Penguins, also went there. I think for Jim Rutherford, it's a little bit of a victory that he didn't have to ship a guy like Derek Pouliot, up-and-coming young defenseman. Wasn't going to send Ole Mata, but as far as Derek Pouliot, that was a guy whose name was in play. Didn't have to get rid of him.
Harrington played in London for Mark Hunter, who, of course, is now one of the co-general managers there. So they have a book on him and decided that the best way to go is to bring Harrington in as one of those young defensemen, and he was number 3 on the depth chart as far as the young future defenseman on the Pittsburgh team.
Yeah. Phil Kessel playing with Sidney Crosby or Evgeny Malkin
and Semin,
or both, as you said. Yeah, I mean,
can't believe that.
How effective do you guys feel that Phil Kessel is going to be now that he is out of the Toronto media limelight? That he's not going to be the most looked-to player on that team. He gets to play a secondary role. How big is that going to be for him?
He's been big already, and he almost made a mockery of what was going on in Toronto with the media and how they just focused on him, and he hated the media, and he just played it up. Behind the scenes, he was chuckling at all that. He's going to love it. He's going to play with Sidney Crosby and Malkin, like you said, Pittsburgh Penguins. He's got a real chance at a Stanley Cup. I think he's smiling today wherever he is. Enjoying Canada Day now that he's out of Canada. He's American, right? So he's back to his mother country in the United States and getting ready for July 4th, and I'm sure he's excited.
Well, I hope he doesn't do too well because they're in our division. But if he's going to be effective on that hockey club, he's got to lose some weight. He was the Pillsbury doughboy late in the year.
What's with you and weight? Sonny Milano gains 20. You want
I want him to lose 20.
To lose 20.
Well, no, actually, I don't want him to. I want him to put on another 20. Fact of the matter is here, though, Kessel is an outstanding player, but he's got that attitude that Gary Agnew, former Blue Jackets assistant, is going to have to work on him.
Oh, he will.
That's not the Gary that they're hoping that they get some results out of. Gary Roberts, who is a former Penguins player who now goes through these training routines with players. They've been talking about this. They were talking about it when he was going to stay in Toronto, if he would stay there. He's going to work out with Gary Roberts. So they're hoping that Gary Roberts can pull out the magic wand and all of a sudden send a sculpted guy.
Imagine? That wouldn't be right. That'd be weird.
Phil Kessel
Somehow I don't think those two jive together. I can't see Kessel. He's on his own agenda, period. But we'll see.
If he's on his own agenda and scores 40 goals, they don't care what he looks like or how heavy he is or nothing, right?
I think on the inside, I don't know. I think he's got it in him. I think he just had this attitude with Toronto because he got the attitude and it just didn't work. But I think it's going to be a refreshing start. And we've talked about other players in this league that if they had that secondary role, not the main man, they would excel. And I think that's where he fits in now.
Rick Nash?
Well, maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Show me
Joe
that.
Thornton.
Show me that screen of forwards again that were signed today. Let's look at some of these other guys that got contract deals. Michael Frolik got a pretty big deal from the Calgary Flames to leave the Winnipeg Jets. So we talked about Mark Letestu and Blake Como getting their deals. But Frolik, you know what? He really made the most of his time in Winnipeg. It paid off today.
Well, yeah. I mean, that's and he's going to a team that, man, this time last year, I almost felt like they used that word rebuild in Calgary.
They did.
They did.
Yeah.
And now they're a team that, boy, they had an impressive season, and team players that go there understand you're going to be working hard every day with Bob Hartley. It's going to be brutal practice.
Did Frolik get the $5 million he was looking for? Because he pretty well priced himself out of Winnipeg.
Yeah, he got somewhere like, I don't know if he got the full 5, but he got close to that. He got what he obviously got enough for him to go there, but he did. I'm not sure what the final number wound up being, but I think it was over 4.5 at least.
Here's a name from the past, Ruslan Fedotenko, who was in Russia last year. He signs a 1-year deal with the Minnesota Wild. He's a guy that I mean, I'm just saying that out loud because I just saw it, and I'm not trying to give all these scoops, but he's a guy. I mean, he's won a Stanley Cup in Tampa. He won one in Pittsburgh. Played for a few more years. He's played a long time in the National Hockey League. Went back to Russia where he's from. And here he is back in the National Hockey League with Minnesota.
Alexander Burmistrov also came back from Russia, re-signed with the Winnipeg Jets today. He had been with the Atlanta Thrashers. Did you see the Frolik deal?
No, I did not.
4.3 is his average annual value.
How long?
$4.3 million. 5 years.
How about these
$4.3 million.
guys? We'll talk about timing. The league is talking about expansion.
Yep.
Things aren't going well in Russia with the players, and we're seeing more coming back. I think that's a good time. It's a good time for that to happen because these players are valuable to this league. These Russians with the elite talent, what they have. I think 2 years ago, maybe even less than that, we were worried about some of these big names, a la Kovalchuk, that were all going to head over there for the big dollars. Seems like it's turning, and that's a good time with this expansion talk.
And that report about the potential, just a rumor, as I said, about Shattenkirk, it's been denied.
Okay.
He is
I thought you were
not
going to talk
available.
about Vegas. Okay, he's not available.
No, I call Gary Bettman. We'll see, get Bettman on the line here. He was so disgusted with that rumor, and it was a stupid rumor to throw out there.
It was. The rumor was
about Vegas taking over the Phoenix franchise next year. The franchise being bought by the Phoenix or by the Vegas group, and then moved from Phoenix to Las Vegas. They're not going to take a relocation fee. They want an expansion fee. This is the NHL and the Board of Governors. Right. So they're going to wait, and they're going to get the expansion fee if, in fact, Vegas lives up to, the potential of an NHL franchise.
Yeah, but my question is, won't they find 2 more cities? I mean, Quebec's in there. Seattle is, rumored. I know Vegas is more the slam dunk. You think that's what they're holding out for? They want the guarantee?
No, what I think, and it involves us, and selfishly, we better hope that's the case. They want to balance things out. If you recall, the Blue Jackets and the Red Wings moving to the East was a 3-year plan. Next year's the 3rd year. We don't want to move back out west. Do you guys want to move back out west?
Oh, I didn't know that was in play.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying it is in play, but
it
if
is
Quebec
up for
comes
review. In, they'll stay east, and a team will go west.
You've got to balance it out. You got to have the same number of franchises in the East. Now, Toronto's going to apply for a second franchise to play out of the Air Canada Centre until they can build a new facility. An ownership group there coming out this week and saying they're putting all their ducks in order. But if you're going to have
the Leafs, are you doing that?
Pardon me?
If you're the Leafs, are you going to allow that?
Well, if you get first of all, you're going to get some type of indemnity fee, obviously, moving into your territory. They're going to have to share that Hockey Night in Canada money, the television contract, and they're going to play in your building, and you can charge them an exorbitant amount of money to play there. I mean, it happens at Staples Center. You've got 3 teams there. You've got
That's a good point.
The Leafs, they can live with it. Another franchise cuts down on their travel expenses. They can make all kinds of money along the way here. So it's a situation where hopefully we get the same number of teams in expansion move to the East, the same number of teams in the West, in my opinion.
So what do you think? You want to go to L.A. or New Jersey?
Vegas. And my wife said to me, Vegas, what a stupid idea to put a team in Vegas.
No.
So I didn't want to explain that, the teams that go in on the road, it's really good for the home team.
Right. The home team should be
Ask
almost,
Bob Strum.
They should be almost undefeated.
I think 1 year Bob Strum, that when they was in the IHL, he said they lost 4 home games.
Right.
Now I know why they came up with that saying, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That's right.
Including the points that you went there to get if you're playing hockey, apparently. Let's take a look at some of the defensemen that signed today, because there were some, the big-name guys, I guess so. Paul Martin's a pretty big-name guy, and that's a guy that I know that the Blue Jackets had talked about maybe having some interest in. It would have to be the right deal. It wasn't the right deal. He signs with the San Jose Sharks for a 4-year deal for Paul Martin. Francois Beauchemin, another former Blue Jackets property, he signs for 3 years with the Colorado Avalanche. Andre Sekera leaves the LA Kings, signs with the Oilers. This guy's getting paid $5.5 million a year.
Is that more than the Keaton?
Yes.
Okay.
Barely.
Yeah. I couldn't remember. Barely.
I think he's
got
got $9 million.
Yeah,
he got $9 million for 2 years.
Right.
4.5.
Yeah. So it's $1 million more. Listen, Andre Sekera, I think he's a very good defenseman, but you see that as overpaying?
Oh,
I do.
Well, hey, there's a history there. The Oilers overpaying to get players to come to Edmonton, even with Connor McDavid there.
Is this guy the same guy that was Sekera last year?
Yeah, Sekera.
Okay.
He was
Yeah,
Sekera,
he's moved
Sekera,
around.
Sekera. Yeah.
So, okay.
You're right.
So now he's in Edmonton. It's
I
going
guess
to be
when he was Sekera, the hips did lie, so he
Sekera.
went back to Sekera, and the hips didn't lie.
Well, wait till later on this afternoon when McCulloch or Mahalik, or whatever he's calling himself this year, wait till he signs.
Overpaid.
No, isn't Zbigniew McCulloch, and the other one's Mahalik. Milan
And
Mahalik and
they are
Zbigniew
brothers,
McCulloch. Yes.
but they're brothers.
Yeah, but they're obviously not
Who's
on
on
the same
first?
page. Yeah, right. Exactly. What about goalies? Let's take a look at some goalies. There was goalie movement today. There was a big goalie movement yesterday when Martin Jones got traded from the Boston Bruins, where he was. Signs with the Flyers to be the backup to Steve Mason. Kari Ramo, he's been involved in a lot of potential trade talk. He re-signs 1 year with the Calgary Flames. They gave him a lot of money, by the way, to sign that 1 year deal. Thomas Greiss, former teammate of yours, Jody.
Tomach Mufafa.
He goes to the New York Islanders to be the backup there. And Anders Lindback, how about this guy? He just keeps showing up year after year. He goes to the Arizona Coyotes, where he'll serve as the backup to Mike Smith.
Let's go back to Martin Jones. So draft day, or at the draft,
right.
L.A. sends him to Boston. And then Doug Wilson gets him from Boston back to San Jose.
And people were making fun of Doug Wilson because, remember, he was saying, well, there's a lot more goalies out there that you guys don't know about. There are goalies in play that you're not even thinking about, because they were basically chastising him for not getting a goalie. He's got no goalie.
He had a goalie. He had him go to Boston.
Right.
Because he knew L.A. wouldn't send him up
Exactly.
to A1A.
Hey, that's old-time hockey.
How
It
do
used
you-
to be
I mean,
a
that-
three-way trade. It happens. Well, it doesn't happen as often as it used to happen in baseball or hockey. But
But was it kind of under the covers?
I would think so.
Yeah,
because LA's not going to trade him.
No, definitely
to a
not. So
rival
LA
in
is
the
sitting there going,
division.
okay, thank you.
Right.
Now our guy's going to excel right under our nose.
Yeah. Very potential.
I like that stuff, actually.
Sean Corrali is part of that deal, too. A local boy who winds up going from the Sharks organization now to the Boston Bruins.
And there's a rumor that he might leave Miami, where he is currently expected to play his fourth and final season as a senior, and may end up signing with the Bruins. They certainly are going to aggressively pursue him. It'll be interesting to see what happens there. Another goaltender that played for the Blue Jackets, McKenna. Remember, he played a couple of games,
Yes.
called up in
McKenna,
the minor. He's signed somewhere today, and I heard that on the way in. Have to see where.
He's on Twitter. He's all over. You can do a quick
Pick
search of
him
that on
easy?
Twitter.
All
You'll
right, let me
find
do
him. You do that while I look at some of the questions we have. I think Nick Foligno is going to join us actually here, and we'll get him on the phone and talk to him about the Blue Jackets and how the team captain sees this unit changing with Brandon Saad being added here yesterday. Let's take a look here. Matthew Dursum says, does Alexander Wenberg take Mark Letestu's spot at center now? Matthew, he took Artem Anisimov's spot at center as the third-line centerman behind Ryan Johansson and Brandon Dubinsky. So that Mark Letestu spot, right now, Jeff, I would say Michael Chaput's got another opportunity. As it stands today, right now, we'll have another opportunity, and it's an opportunity that he got a little taste of at the beginning of last season.
Well, they had to qualify him the other day, and I think the Jackets were already in negotiations with Chicago, and knowing that Anisimov was a key part going to Chicago. And I think that is one of the reasons why the Jackets qualified him and re-signed him. And obviously, I thought he played well. I know that Jody commented on several telecasts how impressed he was with Chaput. I understand he's working out here during the offseason, and he, too, looking to put a little weight on and perhaps have a better chance to stick with the club.
Will somebody get this guy a box of donuts?
Yeah,
That's all
let's
he's talking
go.
about
Where's
is
Tim
putting weight on.
Hortons? Glenn. So that's all good things. Chaput, I loved when he was here, but I thought we could notice the difference between a full-time NHL player and a guy that's just on the edge of being there, and that's the luxury. And Michael Chaput can take that step.
Yeah.
He can fit in and fill that role that's needed right now.
All right, here's the next question, which is going to lead right into our guest. Troy says, with the addition of Brandon Saad and Jarmo hoping that he fits on Ryan Johansson's line, who do you think is likely to be the other forward to join them? Cam Atkinson, Boone Jenner, or Nick Foligno? I'm going to go out and vote for Nick Foligno right off the top here.
I'll make it 2.
So no matter what you say, Jody, it's already 2-1. That's the best you can do. What would you say?
I would say it would have to be a right-handed or left-handed shot.
Good thinking.
Get in
I
there,
go
dig
with
in.
yeah.
Nick Foligno is joining us right now. Here's the Blue Jackets captain. Nick, thanks for coming on with us today.
Always the politicians, you guys. I like it.
Now, when you see who Switzerland is here, it's Jody Shelley. He's just walking, tiptoeing down the middle there.
I was wondering why you guys were sucking up like that.
If Jody would have said Fetter Tootin, I would have lost it.
Hey, yesterday when the news broke, did you have any inclination that was coming down the line?
No idea, actually. It was, I hate saying it was a great move because you're losing some good friends and players on the other end, but as far as our organization going forward, I was really excited when I saw who was coming the other way, and this is a guy who's won, I think, 2 Stanley Cups, and he's 22 years old. I mean, this is a guy that I think the organization is making a huge statement about. This is the team we want to have. These are the players we want to have, and this is what's expected. So always sad to see guys like Artie and Marco go, but when you're bringing in a guy like him, I think it just makes everyone that much more excited.
Nick, happy Canada Day. I think you're in Sudbury, Ontario. Hope you're enjoying it on a
Thank you.
boat or a pontoon or whatever you're doing up there. Appreciate your
You
time.
as well, Jody.
I just want to know how proud are you of the buzz around this team right now? Because things ended great. You watch the Stanley Cup get presented, but a lot of respect around the league. And then this move comes down with Brandon Saad joining this team. How good does that make you feel?
Oh, it makes me feel great because I think we're starting to get noticed as a team that's making a serious push to be contenders, not only for the playoffs but for the Stanley Cup. And I think it's starting to show our credibility and making people understand that we're a team that feels that we're for real. And to be a part of that and to be one of the pieces of the puzzle is a great feeling. And now it's on us to go out there and prove to everyone that we are the team that we're trying to become. And I think it's a great opportunity for all of us to fall in line here and really make a good push.
Jody is the ambassador of the team, Nick, but you're the captain. Congratulations on that anyway. But have you had a
Thanks,
chance?
Grim.
Have you had a chance to talk to Saad and welcome him to the team before the ambassador does?
No, not yet. I've actually left. We've been playing phone tag. I missed him last night. I called him, and then he called me back, and then I tried him again today. But I'm sure we're going to connect. But just, I wanted to be one of the guys to welcome him to the team and tell him how excited we are to have him. And I know he's expecting big things, and we're looking forward to working together and pushing this team in the right direction.
All right, Nick, just a quick follow-up on that. Since you've been named captain, can you tell us on the inside some of the things that you've done and talking to your teammates and reaching out and getting everybody prepared for the season?
Yeah, you know what? I've just been trying to keep in contact with a few guys, and starting to try to get a hold of more. I'm trying to respect the fact that it's their summer's time away, but I'm going to slowly get in touch with each and every guy as we get closer to the season and just make sure we're focused and on the right track. And the biggest thing I'm watching the playoffs this year is the teams that can focus and stay committed to the goal is teams that usually are there at the end. And you see that, and the 2 teams that were vying for the Stanley Cup, they're teams that never wavered no matter what was going on. And so it's just making sure we have that focus when we come in ready to go. We're all going to be in great shape. It's about that focus to know that we're pushing for the Stanley Cup, and nothing else should matter.
Nick, I'm curious, and I want you to try to be honest with this. How close are you following free agency here today?
So. I am because, obviously there's some buddies that, Mark Letestu just signed in Edmonton, so we became close friends. So you always want to see how he does and where he's going to end up. And then you never know what could happen in free agency day with your team. And so you always try to keep one eye open. But now with having a daughter, she doesn't really give me the chance to watch the TV too often. So it's been pretty interesting, though, the moves that have gone on today. And like I said, sad to see guys go. A guy like Mark Letestu is a great teammate, great friend. Really happy for him and his family that they get a great opportunity to go back home in Edmonton and have a real good, solid 3-year deal there. And then you see Artie sign a great contract for himself. So, there's always silver linings to everything, but it's about our team and us moving forward. And I think there's bright things ahead for our team right now.
Are you happy you got your contract out of the way earlier before this free agent frenzy?
Yeah, we were laughing. My brother and I were like, it would be a lot different day had I not done that. And,
I bet.
It's pretty special, though. I think that was, looking back on everything, is the reason why. Just the commitment that I felt the team was making to me, and I wanted to make that same commitment to them, and to know that we were able to get a deal done. It just makes me feel so great about where things are right now, and now just trying to be a big piece of the puzzle to help this team and to push us in the right direction. And there's so many great players in our team right now, and I love the comments I'm reading and seeing about how everyone's taken so much notice of our top 6 or our top 9 or our team now, and it's to credit the organization, but now it's on us players to make sure, like I said, that we're following up with that, and the expectations are one thing, but going out and do it's another.
Talking with Blue Jackets captain Nick Foligno here today. And Nick, you mentioned Mark Letestu leaving. If you go back to last year at this time, you lost Derek McKenzie and Blake Como, both to free agent deals. Today, Mark Letestu leaves. You're always talking about how many great leaders you have on this team, but those are 3 pretty big leadership pieces that you've lost over the course of the last 2 years. As being the head guy now, how do you make up for that loss of leadership with Mark Letestu?
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity for other guys to step up. I mean, with maybe, I'm not looking at it this way, but you kind of have to in a sense, is, with Derek McKenzie and Blake Como gone, it allowed other guys to step up, and myself included, to take on a bigger leadership role. And maybe I wouldn't be in this position had they stayed or different circumstances come around. So I'm hoping other guys look at it for a chance for them to be a voice or for people to follow their example. And, we have young players. Ryan Murray can take a huge step this year. Boone Jenner, another big step. And even Alexander Wenberg can become the player that we saw at the end of the season last year. And so all those young guys, they get an opportunity to really step up and be the players that we envisioned and take on a bigger role. And anytime you can do that with your young players, you're going to become a better team.
Nick, some of the teams in the division making some moves today. The big one, Phil Kessel going to the Pittsburgh Penguins. The New York Rangers just signed Victor Stahlberg comes over to join them. Everybody's going to try to get better. I had mentioned earlier in the show before you came on, I feel like the Penguins were trying to keep up with the Joneses, and that's the Blue Jackets getting Kessel to try to balance out the move yesterday to get Brandon Saad. When you look around, how fun is it playing this Metropolitan Division going to be this year?
It's going to be a lot of fun. There's going to be a lot of firepower on a lot of teams, so it obviously makes Pittsburgh that much more dangerous. Phil Kessel is a great player, and I'm sure with Sidney Crosby and Evgeny Malkin, he's going to get the puck quite a bit. So it makes things interesting from that standpoint. But I like our team. I like our chances. And I think with the team that we have right now and the way we're made up and the type of character that we have in our team, we can rival anybody. And that's not just in our division. It's in our whole league. So that's the way I feel. And now it's about getting ready for the season, having that focus, and staying with that the whole year long.
Nick, you were captain of one of the teams in the All-Star game. After the game, there was a post-game news conference. You and Ryan Johansson at the podium. Johansson went out of his way to talk about you and the leadership you showed him and pushing him, et cetera, et cetera. Are you working on Johansson here to get him in top shape for the season?
Absolutely. We all know Ryan's a huge part of our team, and I think Ryan now knows he's a huge part of our team. So I think the motivation's there. I don't think there's going to be much pushing. It's Ryan's, I think, come of age, so to speak, and understanding that he's a big part of this, and he's a great character guy, and sometimes you just have to grow up, and it takes some guys a little bit longer than others, but I think Ryan's taken it real personal this year, and I think he's going to come back and be the player we expect to be in more, and I can't wait to see him come this year.
He could be one of the best, no question.
Absolutely.
What do you got planned the rest of your day, Nick?
Well, we're gonna hang out here, and my daughter's got a bit of a cold, so we're probably stuck in the house. And it's actually a cold day here in Canada. I don't think anyone's too surprised about that. But maybe going to try and shoot off some fireworks later.
Nice.
Maybe volunteer my brother to be the actual lighter guy, not myself. So
Yeah.
Veteran.
see what I can do to Buffalo's chances this year.
I was just going to ask you about that. Your brother's team is in a lot different spot than it was last year. Jack Eichel did sign a deal today. He's officially coming out of college to absolutely nobody's surprise after being taken second overall. But does he feel a little bit better about where he is now with the group that he's with?
Absolutely. I think just like us, I think you look at what Buffalo's doing. They're trying to become the team that they want to, and they have a lot of people who, especially the fans, that they owe it to be a team that competes and is a good team each and every night. And I think the moves they've made has allowed them to take that next step. So it's going to be a tough conference, the Eastern Conference, the Western Conference. It seems, there's really no room for error on any team, and you're seeing that with teams picking up guys because they know that the team next to them is doing the same. So it's good to see, though. I'm obviously you want your brother to do well, so it's good to see that Buffalo's taken some big steps. But I really think we came away great winners in this one, and getting Brandon Saad and then moving our team forward.
Yeah, there's 3 times a year you don't want to see your brother do well, right?
Exactly, and then hopefully not in the playoffs either.
Right, exactly, no doubt. Nick, thanks so much for taking some time out of your Canada Day to join us. We really, really do appreciate it. And trust me, there is a lot of buzz here, and you'll know it the minute you get back to town.
I can't wait to get back in town and get this thing started. Thanks, guys. Enjoy your summers.
All right,
too. Thanks, Nick.
Nick Foligno, Blue Jackets captain, joining us here on today's show.
I had a thought. Free agency used to be the day for these organizations like Buffalo to make these changes. It was their day for their GM to make a statement. I don't know if they've made one free agent signing, but they've done a lot to their team since the season and even in the last portion of the year with their, not only, of course, their first pick, smart trades, good positional pickups. They're calculated, they're young, but they have. I feel like they have an identity. And you heard there from Nick about his brother being with the Buffalo Sabres, and that there's more excitement around there. Their new coach, everything is new there. The owner is really infused everything to that area where the arena was. Anyone knows where that arena is. There's hotels and all kinds of entertainment things around outside. So it's an exciting place to be, I think, Buffalo.
Yeah, no doubt about that. They really overhauled it at the draft.
But not on July 1st, which is
Right.
usually what teams try to do.
Right, no question. Another former Blue Jacket has signed a contract, Brian Gibbons signing with the New York Rangers. He came here last year from Pittsburgh. I know he was hoping to have a lot better season than he had, Jeff. He got injured during training camp, and that kind of put him way behind to begin with, and he was never quite able to catch up.
No, I don't think he ever felt comfortable in a Blue Jacket uniform. You're right. He wanted to, look back to the playoffs the previous spring, and he had scored a couple of key goals against the Blue Jackets, too, in one game, in fact. And I think he thought he was coming to Columbus and could make an impact on this hockey team, as the Jackets thought. But you're right, he got hurt early and was never able to recover and never felt comfortable in a Blue Jacket uniform. It's interesting the Rangers signed him here right now, a depth guy. The Rangers, by the way, another hockey note, Glenn Sather stepped down as general manager today. And I thought that very thing. Jody jokingly said when we watched Jim Schoenfeld and Sather move away from the table during the draft and never to return. As Jody said, alluded to, that was a veteran move. Well, he just didn't look comfortable in talking to Glenn Sather before the draft and then during the draft. And then I saw him as I was walking out of the building a little bit later on after the draft, and he said, "I thought you wanted me to come on the air and give Jody a shot." And I said, "I did, but I didn't see you quick enough," and then, of course, the show ended. But fact of the matter is he has stepped down, and Gorton has taken over as general manager. 2 teams, Boston and Toronto, asked for permission to talk to the Rangers. They were refused, so I think the writing was on the wall. Sather, who has a lifetime contract, remains president, and they've got a new general manager.
Love to see him with that organization still. I'm a big fan of Glenn Sather. I've said it before, and it's time for them to make that change, though. Those general manager duties, it's really hard. It's cumbersome. You have to get out there and see the players, and I think Glenn Sather's one of the guys who's understood that and all of his roles to the best. So for him to take that back seat, I'm sure it's good for him and his family. We know he has a lot of grandkids running around. I think that'll help him still be a part of the Rangers. Great resource for Gordon to go to, obviously. But it'll be interesting to see what they do, what kind of direction they go, because they do have a lot of players in play when it comes to trade talks. So it's all might be a lot of hot air in the offseason with the Rangers because they're so heavily covered. But it'll be interesting to see what kind of stamp Gorton will like to put on this right away.
Speaking of hot air and trades, do you think potentially the Rangers would think in terms of dealing the Blue Jackets' former captain, Rick Nash, who's now in New York and after a disappointing playoff?
What's his no-trade status? Doesn't it
Limited, it changes today.
Yeah,
it changes today. I guess he has to submit a list. It's a limited no trade, and he's got to submit a list. So now there's a new general manager there, new philosophy. Do we possibly see Nash moving? It's been rumored that that potentially could happen because they are up against the cap as well.
Yeah, if not this immediate season, I don't see him retiring as a Ranger. It's a tough spot to last that long in. It's a hockey hotbed.
I see the wheels turning over there.
So
I've already predicted where I think he's going to retire. I could be right or I could be wrong.
That's
but
true.
I honestly think his number will hang from the rafters in this building. I really do.
I think he'll return. LeBron did. Why not Nash?
No.
Two different stories. Two different. I mean, that's
well,
just
wait
completely.
A second. Wait a second. No different. One guy had the decision on ESPN and got raked over the coals for a long time, and it was not until he re-signed with the Cavaliers that they accepted him back, and the owner scratched out all those nasty things he said about him. And then you have a situation.
That was terrible.
Yeah, and then you have a situation where Rick Nash asked to be traded. He wanted out. So what's the difference? They both wanted out. Bottom line.
Well, to me, the difference is LeBron just went for the money. I mean, he was a free agent. He went for the big-time contract.
Well, he went for
Nash
three
went
big
for the
national.
lights of Broadway.
He won the World Championship three times, too.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, I mean, he wasn't in the middle of a deal and he asked to get out of it. He just said, I'm out of here. And then he came back. But anyway,
He was a free agent.
Right. And Rick was not.
Right.
That's what I'm saying the difference is. You asked what's the difference in the difference in Tuesday. We're getting way off track. Listen, I still think, and I'll maintain it until it happens or doesn't happen. I think he'll come back. I think he will do what Jaromir Jagr had a chance to do in Pittsburgh and didn't do when he went to Philadelphia instead of go back to Pittsburgh. I think someday Rick Nash, given the opportunity, and the Blue Jackets have to have, he has to be able to fit in.
You're right.
I think if he does, he comes back.
I'm with you.
I don't see it, guys.
You don't see it ever?
I think the boos are really heavy. Genuine.
The booze will go
People
back to.
I think you're either on the ship for the ride if you signed in. If you asked to get out of here, you're out of here.
Once you quit the squad, you quit the squad.
Don't ask to leave and come back.
It's 21st century, man. This happens all the time. You can fix everything.
It's a good argument.
You can fix everything on Twitter.
Try it. Try it.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see. Speaking of Twitter, Brandon Brown says, what are your thoughts on Johnny Oduya? Would he be a good fit for Columbus? I don't know if I think he's a good fit wherever.
Jan Heda. He's more of a Jan Heda, isn't he? That's what comes to mind.
Is he Jan Heda, Jeff?
I think he's got a little more offensive upside.
I would agree with that.
A little better skater.
Yeah.
But he can be that shutdown guy.
Yeah. Oh, no, I don't disagree with that, but I think he's got a little more of an upside with the offensive side.
More than one goal a game.
Yeah.
Or one goal a season.
What happened to Heda?
Right, exactly.
Did Heda re-sign with Colorado?
Haven't seen.
I don't think he did. I think he's done there. Colin Madigan also says, I've heard Yarmo say already he likes what we have on defense. Do you believe that we stay put? Look, he's not making any moves today. He's not making a knee-jerk reaction move. He just told us 2 days ago on this show, Jody, that he was okay starting with what he had at the end of last year. And when you win 15,
obviously,
look, you win 15 out of your last 17 games. That changes your mindset, right? I mean, if you lose 15 out of your last 17 and you see your defense is porous, now you would have made a move well before this, possibly. But I think he's okay with being patient.
I think he goes and gets a defenseman.
But it doesn't have to be. Well, I'm not saying he's not going to, but I think he will. He's okay with taking his time and doing that.
But how about the moves he makes? These are guys that are not considered to be on the radar.
Right.
I
love that. Go back.
So we're not talking.
Just go back to the Nathan Horton trade that he made for David Clarkson. Nobody in the world knew that was coming, right? And then yesterday, nobody in the world knew that was coming.
So those deals, like we're sifting through all these names, but it's like, and Mike Green, I like him at the right. He's the type of guy this team needs at the right price. Right. Offensive defenseman, defenseman with skill, elite defenseman. Of course, Mike Green 5 years ago would have been better, but if you can get it for a couple years at a good price.
But that's the problem. It's free agent frenzy. That's why they call it that. And you overpay, and the Jackets are not going to be in a position to overpay.
There are some players now who are getting a little anxious at this time of the day. Now, it started at noon. We're at 4 o'clock. How many offers? Some guys might not have any offers. Some guys might realize, hey, I thought my value was here. It's not.
There's still some big names out there. We've got Brad Richards, hasn't signed, not going to re-sign, obviously with Chicago, at least at last report, although now with Saad gone, perhaps they re-sign him. Antoine Vermette, Mike Green, and listening to Bill Daly this morning on NHL radio, he said things are changing now. Players get a chance to talk prior to the 1st of July.
Good point.
And you have a situation where guys sign right away. Now you've got that negotiating opportunity, so you have a chance to talk to 3 or 4 teams prior to July the 1st, and now you sit back and think, well, I don't have to be in a rush. I can sign tomorrow. I can sign on Thursday. I can sign next week. And I think that's a big, big reason why some of these guys have not signed yet today.
Martin St. Louis also out there, forward with.
Would you sign him at 40?
Mike Green's going to Detroit.
Yeah, I wouldn't be
Great
surprised.
pickup.
No, he is.
Oh,
Done.
so that's a done deal.
Yeah.
I know Boston was interested.
3 years, $18 million.
Well, there you go. Would you pay him $6
Wow.
million?
No.
That's it.
Not a
Overpaying.
chance.
That's what we're talking about.
And also,
don't doubt Kenny Holland.
also
though.
somebody
I
has tweeted that Semin has not signed with the Penguins, that's a fake account. That's a fake Twitter account.
Okay.
So I'm trying to look at that. There's nothing online saying that he did. I was just looking online to see if he did. So.
I saw a tweet earlier on today that he had signed
no,
for $2 million.
I don't deny
but
that whatsoever, because that's the other stuff
and you
that
might be
happens
right,
on a deal
yeah.
like today.
Exactly.
I said you can fix everything with Twitter. You can also screw it all up.
Well, I wasn't going to say it, but I knew it.
No, okay. You talked to Alexander Semin
I've
earlier
watched.
today, didn't you?
Careful with your Twitter
Get him on the
fingers.
phone there, Jody.
Semin?
Semin.
Yeah, let's go to Semin now, live. And McGee to score.
Where is this
Kevin Love.
right now?
5 years, $110 million.
Now we're going NBA.
Cleveland.
See, out of nowhere.
What's Cleveland?
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no, he
Kevin
said he
Love.
was going back.
$110 million, 5 years. Not a bad 5 years coming for Kevin Love.
Michael Paliota is at this camp, gentlemen. He's here.
How about that?
I was trying to see if he's in this group that's behind us right now.
They probably let him go to the Lake group, I hope.
I would think so, because just 9 seconds ago the picture was tweeted by the Blue Jackets.
He is out there.
He's wearing number 36.
How about that?
So there he is, right
There he
there.
is.
We'll zoom right in on him. Boom.
Oh, he looks good.
Welcome to
He looks
development
good.
camp.
I like him.
So
Supposed to have a good shot from the point.
So there you go. Hey, gets traded one day, shows up next day for work. You can't beat that, right? In the middle of the summertime.
Played one game for Chicago last year.
One great game.
Yeah.
So-
Captain of Vermont last season, 4
Good for
years.
him.
Graduated.
Good for those guys to get him in here.
And good for the kid to show up, too.
Yeah. Now tell me what they did today, Jeff, or you guys had mentioned they, because usually they were skating. They had a 10 and 11:30 skate this week.
Not today.
Not today. Their first on-night session is behind us. It started 53 minutes ago, 3 o'clock. They were on a scavenger hunt around Columbus area. Is that right, Bob?
That is correct. Yeah, they were on a scavenger hunt earlier today.
That ended at the Jack Nicklaus Museum
Oh, yes.
over at Ohio State.
That's correct.
So, and
Where
yesterday
they
they were
had
at
to
the
find,
zoo.
where they had to find their golf ball.
Hopefully they didn't take some archive.
Right.
I saw them yesterday at the zoo. How the outfits are cracking me up. I'm out of style.
Well, here's the funny thing, too, and I'm watching all these tweets yesterday. So you go from guys petting hippos and holding leopards or something to Brandon Saad.
Yeah, right.
Boom, boom.
Ding, ding, ding.
Hey, by the way, while you're at the zoo petting a hippo, look at this.
Yeah, right.
Pretty big deal. So
Yeah.
it's been a great couple of days here for the Blue Jackets, obviously. Now to get Paliota into this camp and, have him here on the ice. It's great. The excitement it's really big, and it's nice to be this excited on the first day of July, isn't it?
It is, with no signings.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, they signed nobody today.
But no, I like the move yesterday coming into today, and I said it kind of put a stamp on this organization that already had a lot of buzz about it. People like finding the dark horse every year. I don't think the Blue Jackets are going to fit in that dark horse category. They're a team that underachieved, and look out for them next season. I think that's what we're headed into next season as.
Well, you look at the situation, the Jackets went to work knowing full well that they wanted to add it to this group, and they certainly did that yesterday. And they made no mistake about it. They were upfront stating that they were not going to overpay for free agents. So we had an inkling a few days ago that they would not go the free agent route unless somebody fell into their lap at a reasonable price that they thought could help the team moving forward. But again, as we said earlier, and you talked about Yarmo yesterday being on the show, just because they don't do anything here in free agency today doesn't mean they can't make another trade prior to training camp. Doesn't mean they can't make a free agent signing in the weeks to come. Doesn't mean that they can't, during the season, the team get off to a good start, look to upgrade the blue line or another forward, if you will, another centerman perhaps. And then, of course, there's the trading deadline. And the management and the ownership of this organization are committed to put the best product on the ice, and I think they'll do whatever they need to do moving forward.
Talk about making a trade later on. Nick Leddy didn't get traded from the Chicago Blackhawks till
day before the
season started,
yeah.
right, to the New York
Oh,
Islanders.
that's right.
So
Yeah.
there's plenty of time.
Yeah.
They both were traded the same
That's
day,
right.
and boy, I'll tell you what, Garth Snow should have been considered for GM of the year because
That's
that
surprising it wasn't.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
actually a good call.
And
If he goes
boy,
another round in the playoffs, maybe, but it's kind of hard to beat Yzerman the way.
Who got GM? Oh, yeah, Yzerman.
Yeah.
Thinking of him as a GM. Man, he's been up on that stage a few times
Yeah.
at the NHL awards.
Yeah.
And he's been about as talkative every time he's been up there too.
To
Right?
the point.
He's very dry and to the point. Simple
I
as
was
that.
like that as a player.
Right.
Talk to him after the game. He'd prefer you talk to Jody Shelley.
Now, tomorrow, it's going to be the tournament. That starts at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon right here at the Ohio Health Ice House. Again, come out tomorrow and watch these guys on the last day of camp. They're going to be going at it. It'll be as close to game action as you're going to see in this camp.
Contact?
So, no contact. But all of these skills. Why would that be your first question?
Brandon Prust goes.
Got traded
I'm surprised they traded
to
him
the Vancouver Canucks
for Cassian.
for Zach Cassian. Isn't
Who's-
that kind of a grit for grit guy?
Not, yeah, but Cassian, remember they talked about Cassian as Lucic.
Yeah.
He's
Something
not
happened in
Lucic.
Vancouver, and he still has an upside. Still a young kid.
I think Bergevin is such a clever GM.
He's got a pretty good assistant, though, in the name of Rick Dudley.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Good point.
And Scott Mellenby, of course, the former captain of both St. Louis and the Florida Panthers. They've got a good management group there. And Dudley was with Bergevin in Chicago. They both, in fact, when Bergevin got the job in Montreal, his first hire immediately, getting him from Chicago, was Rick Dudley, and they're a good team.
My question is, how do you have Derek Dorsett and Brandon Prust? I mean, that's going to be one of those lines.
Whoa!
Maybe they're looking at that Lucic pickup and thinking, we got to get a little tougher out here. And you said Cassian needs a fresh start.
Yeah.
So
Let me tell you this. I'm surprised the Vancouver Canucks did what they did last year. I expect them to be going through a rebuild here. And I mean, miss the playoffs, have to totally look at what's going on there and revamp things.
I thought that was last year. I
did
couldn't
too.
believe they were in the playoffs.
I did too, but if it happens, if they don't make it this year, I'm not going to be surprised whatsoever. So maybe they'll just
Keep doing that, and you're
Toughen
just
it
going to
up.
keep saying it.
that could be too. So again, tomorrow development camp comes to an end here at the Ohio Health Ice House with the prospects game. We'll have that for you at 4:30 tomorrow afternoon, and invite you to come out here and see it too. You know, this is the first time in 19 days it hasn't rained today. You believe that?
Are you keeping track?
I am keeping track.
You brought the good weather, Jeff.
Okay, what do I get for it?
You get this
Pat on
piece
the
of
back.
Velcro. You can take that home with you.
Thanks, buddy. Like usual.
Put it in a special place. Don't lose it.
Any idea where?
I'd like to thank Jeff Rimmer for joining us today
My
as
pleasure.
we
Thank
talk
you for
about
having
free
me.
agency in the National Hockey League. There'll still be more deals to come, and we'll keep you up to date on it. Until tomorrow, 4:30 for the Prospects Tournament here at the Ohio Health Ice House. For Jody Shelley, I'm Bob McElligott. And thanks for watching CBJ in 30 on Jackets TV, presented by Ohio Health.